as a young Plymouth guy, everybody knew who this guy was from Bremen, and they were the dreaded rivals. And I remember I was in the 8th grade, and we were doing popcorn for the Plymouth section that year. And up in the end of the Centennial Gym, there he sat with his whole family, his wife and daughter Cindy, and boy, that's the prettiest girl I've ever seen. And again, that was my 8th grade year, so we got to be friends with some of the Bremen players and things, as you would, playing basketball and running track and stuff. And so our 8th grade year, I was standing around talking to some of the Bremen players, and Cindy came up, and we made a bet. She bet me 50 cents that they'd beat us in football our freshman year. Well, she lost the bet, and after the game, she went over and she paid my mom the 50 cents. So that was kind of my first introduction to the Bunge family. And I played varsity football at Plymouth for 3 years as a starter, and he was head coach. And he can probably tell you some of the horror stories that we went through playing each other. But I don't know. What do you got to say about some of those games, where you blocked my punts and well, it's not that funny.
And he ended up marrying my daughter, the guy that hated me.
Well, I'll tell you, Bremen was always prepared. You knew you were going to have a battle. And it was such a strong rivalry between Plymouth and Bremen. And I really think we miss those today with what football's become. But I remember my sophomore year, we were behind, and we ended up winning the game. It was a close game. I think it was like 13-7. And walking off the field afterwards, some of the Bremen kids, one of them mentioned Miley didn't think you had it in you, and a couple other guys, we were jawing back and forth friendly. And we get in the locker room, and our coach, he was so angry at us that he didn't want us associating with any Bremen players all over the whole summer. He was so mad. And but you knew you were going to have a battle when you played Bremen. They were in a weight room and things like that. And for a small school, we never had a weight program. When we started, you had to bring your own weights in, and we lifted weights in a wood shop, in Plymouth. But he was way ahead of most schools with weight training and physical training back in those days, and it really showed.
Back when we didn't have weights, we did some things after practice on the field. We'd have one player lay on the ground and the other one sit on his hands and do push-ups, like bench press. And we did what we called fireman's carry. We did what we called blowing, some things like that were like weight exercises. And something else. We're referring to his seeing my daughter and think she's pretty. That's what happened to me on a campus in Indiana Central. I saw my wife and I thought she's the prettiest girl I ever saw. But she was really important in my life. I probably wouldn't even been noticed a lot of times if she hadn't been with me. Somebody says, and they got a lot of comments. People think she was my daughter a lot of times when after she'd had all those kids and we'd be somewhere. She's some gal in lots of ways.
Yeah, I can relate to that same thing with my wife. I probably wouldn't have been noticed if I hadn't been with her, a lot of times too. Same thing. Yeah, he raised a lot of pretty daughters, I'll tell you that. Or his wife did, I should say. He wasn't around very much. And I remember when my freshman year, or my sophomore year, we won the NLC Conference. And then our junior year, again, we were in contention for the conference championship. And Bremen came over to Plymouth, and they beat us 26-6 or nothing, I think, something like that. And I don't know how many punts they blocked. And we just got it handed to us. And again, our coaching staff was so mad. We had practice Saturday morning. It was probably the hardest practice. We just beat each other up so bad it wasn't even funny. It was worse than the game. And again, they were well prepared. I mean, they had our number and beat us. We ended up winning the conference, but it seemed like every year Bremen had a factor in us winning the conference. We won the NLC Conference 3 years in a row, and we were 1-1-1 against Bremen in conference championships. So it's a remarkable thing that they had going on over there. I hate to say it, but at one time I remember going over there. I got run out of bounds on the sideline, and he kicked me. And his yardage marker guys over there in the corner, one of them tried to stab me with a yardage marker. I swear he did. I know he put him up to it. And another trick he always had in the book, Bremen always had the longest grass in any field you ever played on. They like to slow other people down, so they cut their fields long. I know they did that on purpose. I just, in my heart, know it. So,
is that true, Don?
I had some great players, but some of them weren't good enough students to go to school, or maybe not big enough, like it is today.
I just accused you of mowing your football field longer than everybody else to slow other teams down. You did that, didn't you? Huh?
Had to mow it myself, line up myself. Today, a coach doesn't have anything to do with what he used to have to do. No.
So he had to care for the yard all by himself, right?
But I think really being brought up during the Depression in those days and had to work and do the things, and you learn something, that's carryover that you have. Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty remarkable in your life is going down to Indiana Central, never having played football in your entire life, and then getting into the Hall of Fame for football at Indiana Central University and never playing until you went to college. That's, to me, pretty remarkable.
I wasn't that much of a football player, but I was, or even a basketball player, but I make the team because of determination. I played on defense, a corner, on defense, and occasional offense, but didn't have the skills. I just had the aggressiveness it took.
Well, and tell them a story about you were playing ball and the guy pay you a steak dinner if you hit a home run, got a home run during the game, and you'd take Jan out for steak dinner after. I just told the story.
We had real good baseball teams, really did. But our field was just a big flat, level as a billiard table, and no fence or anything, just flat for a long ways. And I led the team in home runs, but it wasn't because I hit it very far, but I'd just get hit a gap or somewhere and then I'd run everybody, before they can get it back in. Yeah. And I played in the Southern Indiana League baseball in the summer one year. Had a coach that he had a restaurant on the corner down the street from the college, a couple blocks, and if you hit a home run, he'd give you a free steak dinner. So I'd hit a couple of them, and then I'd take my wife out there down there to dinner and eat. Yeah.
Well, in senior year, again, we were in contention for the state championship, and he had some real good players. Paul Hunt, who was Bo Hunt's uncle, and a big kid. Boy, he was tough, strong, and we'd scouted him, and they had this play where they'd run him out of the backfield, and our assignment that week was whoever was playing linebacker would trail him everywhere he went. Well, I was fortunate; I intercepted one of the passes. And a little later in the game, they run that off, and the linebacker doesn't follow him. So this big old Hunt kid's going down the sideline, just leaving a wake of Plymouth tacklers, running over people, to score. And we ended up tying that game. I think we were leading 21-0 at halftime, and ended up tying at 21-21. But again, we still won the conference championship. So, and then I never dated his daughter in high school. my wife, and we were in college. Between our freshman and sophomore year, we went out a couple times, and then went back to school. And then the next summer, we dated some more. Of course, he's oblivious to all this, because he's wrapped up in football. And I asked her to marry me that fall, and we decided we were going to get married. And I'm over at their house one day, and he's sitting on the fireplace. He says, "So you're getting married, huh?" and that was I didn't even get a chance to ask him. He was pretty accepting of me, though. I'll give him that. He was a pretty good father-in-law. Yep, and a good father-in-law.
Yeah.
We like to rib each other every now and then, as you can tell. But
She's a good gal. She's good as her mom. Yeah.
how about me? Oh. Boy, a long pause there. Tell them a little bit about the year that you guys beat Plymouth and you and the players walked home.
I forget. I just told them, you win this game, I'll walk home. Next day they had SAT tests or something, I don't know, and so I wouldn't let them walk home with me, except about 4 of them, I think, that weren't.
There was more than 4. I've seen the
Didn't
picture.
have to take the test or something. I don't know. They weren't good enough students. I don't know why, but they walked home with me. Got home 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was Halloween time. We come down King Road just before you got the Yellow River there, and of course, I had a couple assistant coaches with me. I talked them into walking home. They didn't want to. And some lady come out on the porch of their house and shot a shotgun in the air and says, it was Halloween that weekend, says, "Don't you come around here causing any trouble." They thought we were troublesome. We were just walking by.
Well, then didn't Jan, wife, bring hot chocolate out to you someplace along the route too?
Just after we turned off King Road there to go east, she'd come out with hot chocolate and cookies for us. Yeah.
Do you think they played a little harder, knowing that you were going to have to walk home? Asking that.
Do you think they played a little harder knowing you were going to have to walk home if they won?
Why?
Do you think they played a little harder, your players, knowing you were going to have to walk home if they won? That was in the early 70s, I think.
I don't remember a whole lot about all the ball games. I don't know anything about stats. I didn't pay attention to statistics. I just knew who kid was and what he does, and that's whether he's on the other team or on mine. I can't tell you how many wins we had or how many losses we had or what scores are of games or anything. I know things that happened during a time, but that's it.
That's a kind of a common theme in these coach interviews. They don't necessarily care about the stats or the wins and losses, but it's the relationships that they have with the kids that seems to be the big part of their remembering of the stories.
He's saying that the stats and things really don't matter to you. It's the relationships you had with your players and the people you worked with over the years. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I look back over the years and I can't believe some of those kids I had, what they turned out to be, businesses that they have or something, or doctors and lawyers and
But it goes back to you teaching them not just football, but how to be men.
They knew what I expected of them. I had a kid one time get hit in the mouth during a game. I forget what game it was, and center on the team, and he come out, and lip was bleeding, and I think he had a loose tooth. He says, "Coach, I just got hit in the mouth." And I said, "You gonna let them knock you out of the game?" He turned around and went right back in.
That's Bill Kaiser. You tell me that was Bill Kaiser. He He was a coach for a long time.
It was Bill Kaiser.
Bill Kaiser.
Bill Kaiser is who that was?
Who?
Bill Kaiser?
No, that was,
Maybe it's not in the whole
I believe he's the doctor that was from Bremen that's in Plymouth now, but it was his dad. Or not,
Dr. Stilson?
yeah, Stilson. It was
Is his
Stilson.
dad?
I think it might have been his dad. If not, it was an uncle or something. I don't know. Yeah.
When you guys revised the program there in Bremen, didn't Notre Dame kind of help you out along the way with some bleachers or equipment or something?
Yeah, we didn't have any bleachers for that first game, so we had the principal call Notre Dame, and Moose Cross was athletic director, and he says, yeah, come on up. We got bleachers out on the practice field, and you can use those. And so we went up there with a few trucks and hauled them down, set them up for the game. Yeah.
Tell them, you're real involved in track, and you, like you say, you like to run and everything, and I'd rather take a beating than run. But tell them about your experience with meeting George Stenbrenner at a track meet.
Culver Academy used to have a rule that students couldn't leave the campus at all, except I guess on Saturday night for a little while or something. That was years ago, and we always played them in football and had a track meet with them. So I forget who the coach's name was. He's there quite a while. He come from Warsaw, I think, and then moved to Culver to coach, and I knew him real well, and so he made a rule. I don't know, next spring he had a daughter that ran the hurdles that was going to school there, and we went over to Tippecanoe Valley, and my youngest daughter was on the track team. She ran the 800, and I don't know what happened, but they had the time wrong, and Culver Academy in Bremen got there early, and Tippecanoe Valley didn't show up for quite a while, so we had a lot of time to wait. I was sitting up in the bleachers, and here comes Stenbrenner up there, and he's sitting down beside me. He was on his way to Chicago. He's a part owner in the Bulls at that time. And he's going up there for a meeting, and so I visited with him a while, and I told him who I was, where I was from. He says, oh, yeah. He says, I know about Bremen. He says, they got a good program down there. They know what they're doing. Surprised me. Kind of guy he was, Yeah.
We're talking about track. Used to have a little Studebaker you used to use for a pacer for your. Tell us a little bit about that vehicle.
Well, in those days it was a quarter-mile track rather than a 400, so it was easy to figure and calculate. And I had an old Studebaker car, and I rigged up some handlebars on the back of it, and I could take the kids around the track, pull them around the track behind there. It was behind that Studebaker. For example, if they ran around there 1 minute, that means they could run a 60-second 400 for a quarter mile, for example, and then you just cut it down. And if they could run around there the time I gave them, maybe 55 seconds, if they could do that, and then as soon as they could, I'd tour them around at that speed. And then when they get in a race, as soon as they could run a little better than that on their own, then I'd put their time down a little more until I get them down running like 50, 51 seconds, all the time.
Think you can get away with that today?
No. In fact, I had a coach or a kid on the team that went to college and ran he ran cross country and distance runs, I think, and he coached out in Northfield just down in Wabash County. And he started doing that, and he had some good runners. He had a couple of them on Wisconsin's cross-country championship, national cross-country championship from there. But he did that until one day he told me, he says, the superintendent saw him out there. He said, what are you doing? He told him he made him quit doing it. But it worked. It really worked. Yeah. What it was for was to just show them what they could do and lengthen their stride out, you know. And,
I'm glad you weren't my track coach.
I
I'm glad you weren't my track coach. That's all I gotta say. Talk about
I wouldn't let them sit still. You know, track meets today, kids, they run a meter event or two, and then they're done, they go sit down until they go home. They didn't do it to me. I made them go on the backside of the track and work out. I had to give them a workout. They got so, I had no trouble. They'd come around and say, Coach, what's my workout when they were done? I didn't have to go find them. Just like I said, they could do just what they get used to doing. Yeah.
you know, you had a lot of players I think you made an impact on that went into coaching themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you might mention a few of those, like Ted Hubers and some of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a few of them.
Ted Huber went on to coach with Ball State and Indiana and
Yeah.
Northern Illinois too, and several places, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then his brother Marty, of course,
Yeah.
and Denny Seneke went over to.
I forget that kid who lived down the street from me. Oh, shoot, can't think of his name too, but I had probably half a dozen of them went into coaching pretty well.
Several players went on to play college ball too.
Yeah, but really not, but a couple of them big time. I had one playing, a Dodson kid that went to Butler, and then he played in the Canadian League for quite a while. Yeah, he coached in one of the schools in Indianapolis for a while until he retired. Roger Dodson.
Well, you had a good career. Coached a lot of sports, raised a good family. I think, anyway, and I'm proud to call you my father-in-law.
Yeah, I had a gal who did a lot for us, man, I tell you. Lucky to have a wife like that. I look at her mother's picture and I think, man, you did a good job with her when she grew up.
One of the things she used to do when Cindy and I were dating and engaged is after every football game, she'd put on a big spread for all the coaches, and they'd come over to the house afterwards, you know, and eat and talk about the game, and coaches that had been to other schools scouting would come over and kind of give them a scout. I mean, it never ended. You know, he never took time to enjoy the victory or anything like that. Right away, he was into the next week's game, you know, and that was pretty impressive to me to see that in action. And then she'd have the players, I think, at the end of the season over for chili supper or in their house and some things like that. So she was really involved with the program, you know. I think she wrote the junior high fight song for Bremen.
Yeah.
And
I'm not seeing that.
I'm sorry. You know, everybody knows when it's time to step aside. What made you decide it was time to step down from coaching football?
Well, I had one assistant coach on the team that wanted to be a head coach, and I don't know, I just thought other guys wanted to step up, you know, and I wasn't tired of it. I just thought my father and grandfather didn't live very long, and about 65, and I thought, well, I'm not going to live very long probably either, so I might as well get into retirement here. So I just decided to quit.
Now, you kept on teaching for a couple of years, didn't you?
I was.
Did you keep teaching after you retired from head coach in football?
No.
You quit?
Oh, I went back. I went back and substituted in the science class a couple times, but not very well.
You were the athletic director at Bremen too, weren't you?
When we were over in that old grade school building, and when we moved into the new building, then that they're in, the present building they're in for a while. But I had two, a daughter and a boy that grew up and got into sports, and I was too busy. I couldn't go see them participate, and I decided I'd get out of this. I didn't mind the classroom. Some coaches don't like the classroom, but it didn't bother me that much. So I said, I'll just go back to the classroom and I can go to track meets and things that they're in.
Well, you always said too that you think it's important for a coach to be involved in the school and in the classroom and to know what's going on in the hallways for your kids and things too. You know, your players to really see what they're doing in school too, right?
Yeah. Who was it? Bobby Knight said, the best school you the best school in the country is the one you went to. I guess he's right. He says the best school in the country, you tell people the best school in the country is the one you went to. That's pretty good philosophy.
Is there anything looking back that you miss about coaching today that you'd like to wish you'd still be coaching or?
Oh, I just miss being around it, you know, and
Being around the players or planning strategy and things like that, or the whole
yeah.
everything that goes along with coaching.
I don't really miss that. I just miss being around it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
All right, last.
I like to watch them develop as they get older, and mature, and improve. Yeah. That's one thing about that team we had this past year. You can see them doing that, you know. And then that group of seniors they had, when they come out on the field or practice that first time in August, I looked at them and I said, man, these guys really matured. They might be all right.
You know, when you look back over your teaching and coaching career, what impact do you think sports had on your life?
I don't know. That's just part of my life and what I enjoyed and wanted to do, and probably kept me straightened out so I didn't get in trouble doing something else like drinking too much or something, you know. Who knows? Never got in the habit of doing that kind of stuff or even smoking. Oh, I smoked a pipe a little bit when I was over in the Philippines, and nothing else to do during the war. Yeah, I think coaching probably kept me kind of healthy.
Well, you're closer to 96 than you are to 95, so
Yeah.
I hope to have you around for several more years. All right, well, it's been good talking with you.
Okay.
We'll talk more.
Yeah, like I
Thanks.
said, good to be here. But